What up? Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Jay's Sideline. Coming to you this Tuesday morning. Shout out to the rest of the FNS family, Matt, Lawisha, and then of course my wife Andrea. Wives Unscripted, Freeze Corner, FNS podcast. Coming at y'all, reacting to the results of last night's national championship game, man. Notre Dame versus Ohio State. And you know what, man, it kind of played out how I thought it was going to go. When you look at these rosters on paper, and when you think about their rosters historically, Notre Dame doesn't even have the talent to compete with Ohio State. When you think about the talent level that has came out of each conference. Now, what they do normally do, they will normally have you some offensive linemen. But outside of that, man, like, they just fall short of everything else. And that was kind of evidently seen last night. Ohio State consistently has a top 5, top 10 recruiting class in the country. That's been the case for a good while. Notre Dame, they never really scratched that surface. And in college, it's more so about recruiting than it is about literally coaching X's and O's and whatnot. So, the results of the game last night, Ohio State ended up winning, Now, what I will say about the game was that Ohio State, they played down to their competition some. So the final score of this game was 34-23. Looking at that score, reading that score, you wouldn't think that the rosters are that lopsided. Like, that's a 2-possession game where it could make it sound like, 2 big-time plays was the difference here. That wasn't the case, man. They went to the halftime 21-7. Notre Dame got their score on their first drive, their very first drive, and they didn't score again for the first half. And their first drive, they had to go for it on 4th down, on like 4th and 2s and whatnot. They was doing they versions of like quarterback sneaks and runs and stuff like that. And that was like helped them extend their drives on this. But outside of that, you didn't see a lot from them offensively that made you feel like they stood a chance. Now, when Ohio State was out there doing what they do, like, they was for the most part making it look easy. Like, Will Howard was out here breaking records for the first half performance of a quarterback completion percentage or something like that. I think he went like 14 for 15, 175 and 2 touchdowns. This is one of those games where it's like, Notre Dame's talent level didn't push Ohio State to be what they were really capable of doing. I mean, if you look at what they did against Oregon, that's what I was thinking was about to happen to Notre Dame. And, no shots to Notre Dame, but it is what it is. Personally, going into this game, I didn't feel I had trust issues with Notre Dame's quarterback, Riley Leonard. He got heart. He plays hard. But I just don't trust him when it comes time to throw the ball. Whether it be making the right decision, making an accurate pass. Their offense, throughout the times that I've got to see this year with this roster, was more so based on his ability to run the ball and like power run the ball. Not so much outrun folks, but power run the ball up the gut, take some hits, and get up and keep going. Like, that's been his story. And I knew that Ohio State was going to put them in a position where he's going to have to throw the ball in order for them to have a chance. Because regardless of how good Notre Dame's defense was or is, Ohio State, they just working with too much. The best wide receiver in the country, Jeremiah Smith, who was a freshman. And another one of the best wide receivers in the country that's going to be going to the draft this year, possibly a first rounder, for sure a second rounder if he's not going to be a first rounder, but Egbuka. Then you got a two-headed monster at running back, Travion Henderson and Quayshawn Judkins. Like, this is not going to be no easy task here. They was going to, do what they do. But the reason why I say that Ohio State probably played down to their level of the team was because, in that first half, the way they was doing, the way they was going, it seems like they was just trying to fill them out instead of just coming out there doing what they do best. 21 points is a good amount of score in the first half. But in college football, when you're working with that kind of roster, that's kind of a little bit underwhelming. And then when you finish the game only scoring 13 more points, that's an underwhelming performance with that kind of offensive arsenal. Jeremiah Smith, he only had 4 catches throughout the game until the very last drive of the game for Ohio State, when it was a 3rd and short, I believe it was, and they took a shot deep, and he ended up catching a big pass that got them down inside the goal line to be able to make it a 2-possession game, kicking the field goal. And that was with like less than 3 minutes left to go in the game. It should have never even gotten that close, if you ask me. It should have never even gotten that close. But they allowed it to. For whatever reason, they took their foot off the gas, played calling, started to trying to just milk the clock and whatnot. Like, this should have been a blowout. This should have been a blowout. Like, you ever seen the clip with Ed Reed when he was playing for Miami and they went to halftime and they was winning by like 3 touchdowns and he was pissed. He was pissed because he felt like they should have been up by more. That's what should have happened here. It was kind of an underwhelming game to watch because you didn't see them play as well as they could have played here. And Notre Dame, they outperformed what most people would expect from them. I know they outperformed what I would expect from them just by keeping this thing respectably close, and then towards the end of the game, they was making you watch to see, will they really be able to pull this off? Because they was in a deficit. It was 31-7 at one point in time. Then they get a score to make it 31-15. And then they down 2 possessions. And so you're looking at this and you're saying to yourself, oh man, can they really do it? Can they really do it? They get into the red zone. Still 31-15. And they get stopped. They go for a field goal attempt. He boings it off the left upright of the field goal post. Still stays a 2-possession game. Then they get a quick stop with a turnover that resulted in a touchdown. So now it goes from being 31-15 to 31-23. because they went for the touchdown, got it, and then they got a 2-point conversion. That was the moment where you were like, Ohio State, they playing around right now. They out here, it wasn't just that moment, but it was like the whole entire game. It's like, why y'all taking y'all foot off the gas? Y'all could have dominated this game. Y'all could have ended this game early. Backups could have got playing time in this game if they would have played the way they were supposed to play. To my standards, at least. But missing that field goal was big for Notre Dame, because when you have that sequence of events happen where they got the turnover and they got a touchdown out of it, that would have made the game that much closer. That much closer. But they didn't capitalize, which is, I'm not blaming the kicker here, because he was only going to make it a lesser gap of a 2-possession game. Because it was still going to be 2 possessions. You just wouldn't have needed 2 touchdowns with 2 2-point conversions to tie the game. He would have just made it to where you just need 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. 2 extra point field goals to go with it. So, Notre Dame, to me, they played hard. I'm not sure if they, with this team, they just couldn't compete, man. They just couldn't compete. Ohio State, they invested $20 million into this roster. Big names being Caleb Downs, and then the other one, Quayshawn Judkins. And Will Howard, too. Will Howard, he's a transfer portal player, too. You're going to be hearing things like this from now on when it comes to college sports. These rosters where, universities is pretty much got a payroll now with the salaries or whatever that they're going to give to the players. You're going to be hearing all of that now, because that's just the way it is with these NIL deals. That's going to be a regular phrase coming up. They've paid this much money for this roster. And not to mention Ohio State, they had a whole lot of seniors returning this year. It's kind of crazy, but it is what it, that's kind of contributes to them winning the national championship this year. They had a roster full of experience and a roster full of guys that not only got experience but are draft-worthy players. Jack Sawyer going to be getting drafted. Tyleik Williams going to be getting drafted. It's a possibility that Josh Simmons is going to get drafted, even with his knee injury. Depending on what the medicals check out for him, he could very well be getting drafted early in this draft upcoming. And then you got the secondary players, Caleb Downs. You got Denzel Burke over there. Ohio State has the roster that you've been expecting from Ohio State for the past decade. So it's just one of those things where this matchup was really like, it wasn't supposed to be close. It really wasn't supposed to be close. But hats off to them. Notre Dame, they fought. They didn't stop fighting, which is been their MO. They didn't stop fighting in the game. Riley Leonard actually had some decent throws in that second half, big time throws in that second half that helped make the game interesting. And I don't know what kind of coverage Ohio State was running, but they opened the door for that game to get close. And then, Notre Dame just does what Notre Dame was expected to do in this, when they don't really have no kind of real sustainable offense when it comes to playing against national championship level competition. But Ohio State is the champs, man. I mean, that's kind of like around these parts up here in Michigan, don't nobody want to hear that. But then other folks is going to be like, well, Michigan beat Ohio State, so that don't mean as much to us, because all that says to us is that we beat the national championship, national champions. Ohio State, this national championship probably saved Ryan Day's job, prolonged it at least, because I don't personally think that he's all that great of a coach. But this is what I was saying when I'm talking about college football is more so about recruiting than it is about X's and O's. Like, so many schools, so many national championship teams is based on just having the best players on the field. You don't necessarily have to be an X and O's genius. You just need to put those best players on the field and call something for the most part, and they'll make it work. There is a little bit of strategy to it. There is some coaches that do bring that strategy out, and they can get creative and whatnot. But for the most part, it's really all about the talent on the paper. Who do you got on your roster, and are they better than the other guy's roster? And it's just one of those things. Ohio State, this is a school that recruits on a normal basis 5-star athletes, supposedly, 5-star, whatever value you put it in that, 5-star, 4-star athletes, minimal 3 stars. Whereas Notre Dame, they're like, okay, we'll get some 4 stars, but we're going to mainly get 3 stars. Nothing wrong with that. It's a way that they try to have a ranking system with the players coming out of high school, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those players are better than the others. They're just highly sought after, and they're worth more than the other players because of their exposure. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're better. But, Ohio State is the national champions. I mean, it didn't really feel like they dominated, but they won when they should have dominated, to me. Notre Dame, they got to get a real offense, man. They got to get a quarterback over there that they can actually trust to throw the ball. Not saying that he has to be an elite level quarterback. He just needs to be good. Somebody that they can have that as a regular feature in their offense instead of waiting until they get in crunch tight situations to try to throw it. Outside of that, man, the rest of the college football world watching this, they already looking forward to next year. Thinking about the recruiting class that they have coming in, thinking about the transfers that they got coming in, thinking about what their chances could be to win a national championship next year. Those type of things. Everybody's looking forward to next year. I'm looking forward to next year for Florida State. Michigan fans is looking forward to next year because they got a homeboy coming, the quarterback, Bryce Underwood. They looking forward to that. Everybody is already looking forward to next year. So now that it's officially over, everybody can really start to, look at it and make plans for it, But one thing I will do, so I'm gonna start doing some scouting the players in the draft class. I'm gonna start, doing that, and you might get some shows out of me depending on what my time looks like. I'm gonna try to squeeze some shows out of this to where I give y'all like my top players in the draft from each position or whatnot. try to do it like a mock draft too. We'll see if I can pull that off. And then outside of that, man, look out for more content from the rest of the FNS family, man. Like, we gonna have some stuff coming out here soon. Man, look, we haven't seen each other since we got off that cruise ship. That's how busy we all been. We haven't seen each other since we got off that cruise ship. So we making plans to get with each other early in February, and that'll be no doubt a time when we knock out a few subjects and get y'all another episode. Till then, right now, you know, we kind of holding it down individually with our own respective shows and whatnot. But yeah, look out for more content coming. Look out for more content coming. And y'all be safe out here, man. You know, up here right now, where we at, the weather temperature, single digits. The low for the day is -4. Last time I looked. I don't know what has happened to change that lately, but yeah. -4. So, y'all be safe. Y'all stay warm out there, man. Peace.